Hey guys, welcome back to my Animal Adventures YouTube channel. And if you've been following my videos, you know I've been really pushing you to step out of your comfort zone, get behind the camera, hit the button, and make some YouTube videos. And let me tell you, you can make some incredible money making YouTube videos. And not only that, you can really share your passion for reptiles or whatever you have going on. If you have a passion, you can share it with the internet community. And I think one of the biggest questions that I've had, actually I've had multiple questions, and that is, how do I make a really good thumbnail? And I think the thumbnail is essential to promote your videos. And when people are scrolling through videos looking for something to watch, the thumbnail is the thing that's going to stand out, and that's going to really drive the success of your YouTube channel. So in this video, I want to walk you through step by step how I personally make a really good thumbnail. Okay, so first of all, the thumbnail should be a really good representation of what your video is about. And YouTube actually has some pretty strict policies. For example, you don't want a thumbnail, for example, if you're trying to drive traffic artificially, you don't want a thumbnail that looks like a video that's gone viral to try to get the views, and then if someone clicks on your video has nothing to do with that thumbnail. And that's kind of called, you know, like a clickbait kind of a thumbnail, and you definitely want to avoid that. You want a thumbnail that represents the content of your video as much as possible. So what I want to do, since I'm into snakes and I have a lot of ball pythons here, I'm going to show you one of my newest little hatchlings here. And this one I'm really excited about. She's been eating really well lately, and it's a little albino pied girl. And she's getting some weight to her. She started off, she was really a finicky eater. She wasn't eating very well. And look at how big she's getting. She's looking really beautiful. So what I want to do is I want to show you how I take a thumbnail with this girl. Okay, so the first thing I do is I put if I'm doing a snake, I'll put it over here. It's a little bit better lighting. And then what I'll do is and this is the camera I use. It's a Sony camera. It's an older Sony camera. It's a DSC HX5. And what I want to do is I just put it on like the easy setting, and I just start taking pictures actually of the snake. And what I'll do is I'll take a few with the flash, and I'll slightly change the angle, and I'll kind of go all the way around, left and right, and then I'll change it from top to bottom. I'll change the angle just a little bit. You can kind of see the picture and the snake. And then what I'll do is I'll actually go in and I'll turn off the flash, and I'll take a few more that way. And I'll take usually what I do is I take about 20 photos, believe it or not. And sometimes you get 1 out of 20 is really neat, and sometimes you can take them, you know, straight from the top. You can just kind of mix it up a little bit. And then I'll go over here, shoot from this angle. And a lot of times I'll have some that are out of focus, so sometimes I'll take multiple from the same angle. And getting a really good picture is really essential. And the other thing is you have to remember too is you can zoom in on the picture, so they don't all have to be picture perfect. Ooh, before I turn it off, there's one more picture. Actually, I just noticed just sitting right on the bottom. That's kind of a neat picture too. And then if you can just wait for their tongue to kind of come out a little bit. And sometimes I'll have a little patience and just kind of wait for the tongue to come out and see if I can catch it. It seems like if you can get a picture with the tongue, and if you get too close, it's a little bit out of focus. It's hard to get the tongue. Sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. But basically, I'll sit here and I'll usually sit here for like 10 minutes and with the flash, without the flash, a bunch of different angles, and I'll try to get a really good picture of the snake. Okay, so now that we've taken quite a few pictures of that snake, what I do next is I put in, I basically take out the SD card, put it right in my computer. There's an SD card slot, and what I do is I'll scroll through the pictures, and there's actually a program, a free program, that's called View. So if you just right click on Open With and go over to View, Open with View, it'll open it and it'll allow you to scroll. You can use other programs to scroll, but I like View because it's free and you can install it. And I like to just have a program to where I can scroll from picture to picture. And what I'll do is I'll just briefly scroll through them and determine which picture I really like. Those are pretty neat. And some of these are blurry, like this one's pretty blurry and out of focus. So I'm thinking I really like this one. So if you decide on one, what you want to do next is you want to zoom in and see if it's in focus, and this one happens to be really well in focus. So which means you can zoom in. You don't have to zoom in on the whole snake, you can zoom in on just part of the snake for the thumbnail. Okay, so what I like to do is copy that picture over to the desktop, and then from here, from my home page here, I like to go to Pixlr.com. It's Pixlr.com, which is an online photo editor. And you can use other photo editors, but I really like this one because it's free, it's online, and you can use it anyone can use it anywhere, which is kind of nice. And it's pretty much a universal. So if I do something on here, you could jump on Pixlr and do the same thing. And I know a lot of photo editors have a lot of different functions, and it's hard to really tell you exactly what to do unless we're using the same photo editor. So from here, you want to click on Open Pixlr Editor. And this will bring you to the next screen. And sometimes it takes a little bit. I'm down here in the basement, so the internet connection's pretty slow. And the other thing is, if you don't have an internet connection, you really can't use this program. So from here, you want to click on the top one, Create a New Image. And then per YouTube guidelines, for the width over here on the left, you should use 1280. And for the height, you use 720. And those are the dimensions as recommended by YouTube for thumbnails. So this is your blank template, and from here you want to do Layer, Open Image as Layer, and you want to select the picture. So so this is actually the picture of the snake, but it's just really zoomed in because it's a really large picture and high resolution. So from here, to resize it, what you want to do is you want to go Edit, Free Transform, and then I move the cursor over just to a corner, and I hold the Shift button down. And holding the Shift button down while you're resizing, make sure that it keeps the length and the width, and it doesn't skew it. And sometimes there's a kind of a slight delay depending on how fast your processor is. And here is the snake right here. So then, let's see. So then what I do is I like to click outside of this box, like down here, and it'll say, do you want to apply the changes? Yes. And the other thing you have to watch for this, if you're doing free transform, now watch. If I move it, it actually cut the picture to that size. So you really want to watch when you're doing free transform that it doesn't cut it too much. So then from here I can do Edit Free Transform again, and it's a little more manageable now that it's smaller, and I want to hold the Shift down and just kind of zoom on a corner. And from here I really want to figure out where I want the zoom to be. The other thing you really have to watch when you're making these thumbnails is usually on the bottom corner it has the time of the video. So if you have something like the head of the snake on the bottom right, a lot of times you'll actually cut it off. And unless you want it cut off, we can actually cut it like this, which is pretty neat. You don't necessarily have to have the head of the snake in there. And I think I like that, just kind of with the eyes sticking out a little bit. So I think that is where I am going to leave the picture. So from here we can add our text, and there's a little button here that it's a little A, and if you click that you can type in your text. And what I like to do is I like to do all caps, and then let's say for example I have to think of the title of what we're doing. You don't want it real wordy, but you want it accurate and you want it succinct. So you have to really put some thought into what you want the title to be. Okay, so I decided on a title, how to make a thumbnail for YouTube. This is essentially what I'm going to make the title. So I want to scroll down. And for some reason the scroll doesn't work very good unless you hit the down arrows. This is it takes a little bit to get used to, but I like to scroll down with the down arrows until I get to my font. You can use any font you want, and I just prefer to use a font called Blowbrush, which is right here. And the first one, I'm going to make a size of 100. And you can make the background whatever you want. You can change it to blue, or you can change it to white. I really like the white color. You can make it whatever color you want. So you can turn it blue. What I like to do is, especially if you shrink it down and you look at a phone, as far as the color of the font, it seems to me that if you make a white font, it's a lot easier to see when it's shrunk down. So I want to make how to make, and then from here I'll do a thumbnail. And for this one, for example, I might want to do 130 size font, and I'll change the color to white, and then I'll hit the button again and thumbnail for YouTube. And for example on this one I might want to go with 150. Kind of gives you a slowly increasing larger size. It's kind of the what I've come up with lately. You can do whatever you want. You can kind of offset them. I kind of like to stair step them sometimes, like how to make on the left, and then a thumbnail in the middle, and then for YouTube on the right. You can do it either way. So then the other thing I really like to do is if you come over to these layers over on the right. So example, if you go to for YouTube, you right click on it and go to Layer Styles, and then under Layer Styles I like to click the drop shadow and the bevel, and then for the color I usually change the color to like a blue over here. And what that does is it gives you like a rounded, really professional looking with a little blue shadow, and I'll keep it consistent over all three of them, and the same color and the same effects. And then how to make is here. We'll go to Layer Styles, drop shadow and bevel, and then change the color to blue. And if I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video and rewind. Oh, I hit the camera a little bit. There we go. Okay, so from here, what I like to do, sometimes if it's white on white, it's kind of hard to see. So what I did is I downloaded an image which is just a black circle, and you can download any kind of a shape really. So from here I'll do layer, open image as layer, and I downloaded one called Blackbird. It's a PNG file, which is probably the most appropriate file to use for something like this. So if you just look up blackbird.png or anything.png, it's really the appropriate kind of a file type for this. And then you go edit free transform, and what I like to do is I like to put it behind my font, and that really makes it pop. You can see it really pop out. And then to actually set it, you click anywhere besides in here. So if you click out here, it'll ask you if you want to apply the changes. You put yes. And then from here, I'll click on the arrow and just move it over to where I want to cut it right here. Click edit free transform, and it goes back to free transform. And if I click out here and it saves it, what it actually does is it cuts it at that end right there. And then from here, I'll just kind of line it up and see if I want to cut it over on this end. I'll put my cursor there right where I want to cut it, and then I'll move it to the edge over here. And I'll go back to edit, free transform, and then click anywhere besides in there. And do I want to apply the changes? Yes. And that actually cuts it right on the edge. And that's kind of the backdrop that I've been using to make my text really pop. And then instead of doing all that again, what I do is I just right click on this layer 5, go up to duplicate layer, and put another layer on top of a layer. And then what I'll do is I'll just move this up, and then I'll hit edit free transform, and I'll reshape it and move it to where it's actually behind this one. And this one down here is a little wide for my taste. So what I'll do is I'll go back into layer 5, and I'll do edit free transform, and I'll thin it up a little bit. And then I can copy either one of these. So you right click on the layer, duplicate layer, and move that back to the top. And as a matter of fact, see, it's actually in front of the text, and what you actually want to do is move it down. You can actually, from here, you can move it down below here, or you could go layer, move layer down. It's right here. And you'd have to move layer, move layer down, and then it goes behind the text. And then edit, free transform, and after a while you get used to this. It's a little bit at first to get used to all the different, I don't use a lot of the functions, but I use the same ones over and over. It's just a basic few that I use over and over to make these thumbnails. And that's it. That's my thumbnail right there in a nutshell. Okay, so one more thing I should mention when you're saving it. So I actually save it as a JPEG, and when I save it, for example, I'll save it to the desktop, and I'll save it as thumbnail. Oops, let's see. There might be already a thumbnail here. Yep. I'm going to name this thumbnail 2 because I already have another thumbnail there. So a lot of times, for some reason, when you're saving it, saving the image as a JPEG, for some reason it freaks out if you don't put the .jpg, and it saves it as an unassociated file. So if you save it as JPEG, I would recommend putting the JPG in there just to save it as a JPEG. And the JPEG is the file you actually want to upload to YouTube. And you also want to save it as another format, which is the PXD format. It's on the bottom here. And when you save it as the PXD, what you're saving it as you're saving this the same name, but it's a different file extension, and it saves all the layers. So for example, if you decide, oh, my text isn't exactly centered and I want to move it over, you'd want to open that PXD, and you can move everything over. And or if you just wanted to change one thing, like for example, if you wanted to increase the width of one of your shading in the background, you could do that without having to redo the whole thing all over again. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you. When you're uploading to YouTube, actually right here, when you first upload, there's nowhere to put that thumbnail. And what you have to do first is you have to select a file to upload. Now I'm just going to start uploading this bamboo. I've already uploaded it, but I just kind of want to show you, for example. So I would select the video file first and open it, and now you can add all your info here, but where you want to add the thumbnail is actually way down on the bottom, and you want to use a custom thumbnail here, and then you go from here. You'd want to choose the thumbnail on your desktop here. And once it uploads your thumbnail, you'll actually see that thumbnail is a mini version of the picture. And you definitely want to check the thumbnail to make sure it's the right thumbnail for the video. So that thumbnail, it usually only takes a minute or so to upload, and here it is. You can actually change it if you want, and then when your video is done, it'll actually randomly pick some image clips as the default. And I would say you definitely don't want to use the default as far as the thumbnail for your video. So the other thing you can do also is, if you don't have a camera, you don't have a really good picture you can take, you can actually go over to, for example, the AVI file. Alright guys, so today I want to talk. And for example, if if you wanted to take if you wanted like a screenshot, what you could do is you could go into your video and hit print screen right here. And then from the print screen, I'm not sure if you can bring this directly into Pixlr. You might be able to. No. No, you can't. But so what I would actually do is I would go into Corel Photo Paint, which I use quite a bit. And I could paste it right in there and save it as a picture. So if you wanted one of the pictures right from your video, you could hit print screen on your keyboard, bring it into a photo editor, and put it in here, and then you could save it and then bring it into Pixlr editor. And I've done that quite a bit, where you have a really neat picture, like me holding a monster snake. You didn't have time to get a picture, but you can actually go through your video, hit print screen, and get a picture from that video and use that as your thumbnail. Alright, so that's it for making a thumbnail for your YouTube videos. And you guys, I know you're out there working hard trying to make some content, and hopefully this helps you out. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.